Back with us, Glenn Kirshner, Kimberly Atkins-Thor, and Danny Cevallos. And I just want to, Kimberly, talk a little bit about yesterday. The prosecution cited 4 new alleged violations by Trump of the gag order, including 2 recent attacks on Michael Cohen, a recent interview where Trump referred to the jury as 95% Democrats, and calling the prosecution's first witness, David Pecker, who was still testifying, quote, a nice guy. How do you think the judge would consider these new alleged violations of the gag order? And why do you think it's taken him so long to decide on the initial series?
Yeah, I think that, Jose, the second answer is related to the first. I think Judge Merchan here is moving very deliberately and carefully. The last thing he wants is for his ruling when it comes to whether or not Donald Trump is held in contempt and what that penalty is, if so, to be the basis of appeal that could delay the trial and certainly not cast doubt on amount to any sort of reversible error in the end. So he is moving carefully here. What I think what will happen is we'll see the judge move incrementally. He will take into account all of the alleged violations up to that point, and he will issue some sort of order. So far, the prosecution has not asked for any sort of imprisonment or detention, but it could escalate to that point. I think we've seen from the past that monetary fines alone aren't enough. You can hear my dog agrees with my analysis there. Sorry about that.
That's that's great. So, Danny, a few things. I mean, the judge scheduled a hearing on the gag order for next Thursday, 6 days from now, after deciding not to rule on it this week. Why do you think Judge Merchan has decided to do this so far? And then also, take us into an average court case, which this is not, but the issue of gag orders, their violations, decisions on gag orders that are violated. How normally does that work? But after the issue of the 6 days from now, Merchan's decision.
Merchan appears to be scheduling gag orders by the week, and that may have been a wise choice, because if you schedule them out a week or so, then you just roll together all the alleged violations because they're on an ongoing basis. But since he hasn't decided on the first gag order violation hearing, that of course will govern how he rules in the future as to the next gag order hearing. But it may be the case that he has to just keep holding these maybe once a week for all the alleged violations. And the violations run the gamut. I mean, some of them you saw up there on the board. I could see both sides of saying David Pecker is nice. I could see Glenn Kirshner arguing in court, nice is something that you say in organized crime to suggest, hey, you better testify the way that we want you to testify. Messing with witnesses is really delicate business. Courts really have to protect witnesses and jurors alike. But at the same time, every gag order implicates constitutional concerns, and constitutional concerns that are crashing into each other. You have the First Amendment right of a party to speak. You have the need to have order in the courtroom and protect witnesses and jurors. You have the public's right to a fair trial. You have a lot of different concerns. So gag orders are always constitutionally suspect and a difficult call. That's why Justice Merchan is taking his time, because he knows it's an important decision and it's got to get right.
And so, Glenn, the fact that maybe Trump was asked questions during an interview about, for example, let's say David Pecker, and responds, is that in any way different than from using his social media to say this witness is or is not a nice guy? I mean, where do you think the line could be drawn here by the judge?
Yeah, I don't think it's a question, Jose, of whether Judge Merchan will hold Donald Trump in criminal contempt for violating the gag order. I think it's how many counts of criminal contempt, and then what we're all waiting to see is what will the sanction be. The first sanction may be a money sanction, but it may be accompanied by a stern warning. Do it again, defendant Trump, and I will order you into a jail cell for some period of time. But there's another consequence of Donald Trump being held in criminal contempt for violating a court order. And it arises in all of Donald Trump's criminal cases, because Donald Trump is on release in 4 criminal cases. And a condition of release in his cases is that he not commit any violation of state, federal, or local law. The minute he's held in criminal contempt by Judge Merchan. He has violated the conditions of release in all of his cases. Quickly, I have a copy of his transcript from his very first court appearance, his arraignment hearing in his D.C. case, and here is what the judge told Donald Trump. Mr. Trump, your most important condition of release, sir, is that you not commit a state, federal, or local crime while on release. If you were to do so, a warrant may be issued for your arrest, your conditions of release may be revoked, and you may be held pending trial in this case. Once he's held in criminal contempt, he's violated his release conditions in all of his cases. The question becomes, what will all of the judges do as a result of that violation?
So, Glenn, this is kind of a really important point that you're bringing up. So if Mediterranean says, for example, yes, criminal contempt because of the gag order violations, but I'm going to fine you, $1,000, $9,000 total, let's say. It doesn't have any bearing on what the other court cases have as far as an agreement with Trump, and they could act unilaterally and maybe jail Trump themselves?
Absolutely, because they will not be imposing a punishment or a sanction for the criminal contempt that Donald Trump committed in New York. But what they can use that criminal contempt finding to do is to say, you violated my conditions of release by committing a New York State offense, and now I'm going to revisit whether I should leave you on release in my case or detain you pending trial. I'm not saying the rule of law will finally rise up and be applied equally to Donald Trump, but there is certainly the opportunity for that to happen.
And the opportunity 3 times over.
Exactly.